Much love, everyone, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am Woman of the Womb, and today I am going to be sharing with you how to obtain a birth certificate when you've had an unassisted birth. But before we get into that, make sure you hit that subscribe button and click the bell icon so that you can be notified when we drop new videos. So first things first, before we get into the actual steps of obtaining a birth certificate, I just want to say I know that this is a somewhat of a controversial topic, and I am not going to go into the politics of whether you should or should not get a birth certificate or anything like that. This is solely for informational purposes only. Do with it what you will, decide what is best for you. Now, with that being said, let's go ahead and get into it. The first thing that you're gonna wanna do when you are planning for an unassisted birth is go on Google, go on your internet browser, whatever you use, and you're going to type into your search engine, out of institution birth packet for whatever your state is. So if you live in Georgia, if you live in Florida, if you live in Alabama, if you live in New York, wherever you live, you're gonna wanna go online and you're going to want to print out an out of institution birth packet. That's usually the term that they use. It might be listed as something else, but generally you will be able to find the specific form that you're going to need for a out of institution birth. Basically what that means is that someone who is giving birth outside of the hospital. So this is the same thing that you would do even if you were having a home birth with a midwife or something like that, except instead of your midwife filling it out, you're going to be the person filling this out. The birth certificate form that you're filling out is literally the exact same thing that you would fill out in the hospital. The only difference is that when you search for that out of institution birth packet, it's going to come with a list of requirements that are specific to your state. A list of requirements of what you're going to need to authenticate, you know, that you were pregnant, that this is your baby, that's going to authenticate your address, and all of that good stuff that you're going to be including in the actual form for the birth certificate. So with that being said, some states may require different things, but for the most part, it's going to be pretty consistent across the board, and there are certain essential items that you are going to need. So of course, the first thing that you're gonna have is the actual birth certificate form itself. So you're gonna want to fill that out with all of your information, you, your partner, or the child's other parent or whomever. You're gonna be filling out the baby's information, when and where they were born, your address, all of that good stuff. Along with that document, they are usually going to ask for 2 affidavits to go along with it. And basically, that is just to have another person confirm, yes, I was there, yes, I saw so-and-so was pregnant, yes, I saw that they delivered this baby. Now you, as the person giving birth, can fill out one of these affidavits, and then the other person who is in attendance, so this may be your partner, this could be a parent, this could be any person who was there with you at the time that you were giving birth. You are both going to fill out those 2 forms. One person is going to fill out the first form, the other person is going to fill out the second form. Now, you do not want to sign any of these documents when you are filling them out at home. The reason is, once you go to take all of your information, all of the documents that you need, once you take that to the Vital Records office, you are going to have those documents notarized. And so in order to have them notarized, you obviously have to sign them in front of the notary. So you do not want to sign any of these documents when you are filling them out. Now, the next thing that you're going to need is a proof of pregnancy. So if you're having an unassisted birth, Some people may choose to also have an unassisted pregnancy in general, meaning they aren't really going to a doctor. They're probably performing their own prenatal care or something like that. Now, that's great, but you have to remember that you're going to need some sort of proof of pregnancy to go along with this birth packet when you turn it in. So one of the ways that you can do that is you can simply call a doctor's office or OBGYN office and say, hey, I would like to schedule a proof of pregnancy or an appointment for proof of pregnancy. Schedule that appointment. You'll usually go in, you'll take a pregnancy test, and they'll be able to print off a document that was signed by the doctor or whomever that performed your pregnancy test, and it will sign and say, hey, on this date, so-and-so was found pregnant, blah, 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 however that document reads. Of course, save that for later, because like I said, you're gonna wanna turn that in with your birth packet. That's the number one thing that you're going to want to do. But you can also, in addition to that proof of pregnancy, go and schedule an ultrasound if you want to, and get those ultrasound pictures and use that as added documentation. That's not usually required. Some states may require that, but you can just add that in as supplemental information. The next thing that you're gonna need is the proof of the birthing person's residence at the time that the baby was born. So you can do this by providing a copy of your driver's license or your ID. You can also provide a rent statement that is signed by your leasing office or by your landlord. You can also provide a utility bill, such as your phone bill, your gas or electric or something like that. So you don't have to provide all three of those. You can choose which one you would like to provide as your form of proof of residency. The next thing you're going to need is just an identifying document when you go in to file the birth certificate. So obviously that just means your driver's license or your ID or even a passport you can use. This is not something that you're going to turn in with your birth packet, but this is something you are going to present to the registrar when you get there to turn in your entire packet. So now that we've talked about how to go about filing the birth certificate, there are a couple of things that I want to point out that can be a little bit confusing while you are filling out this document. So once you get to the very last page of the birth certificate packet, there is going to be a section there that asks about the birth attendant, that asks about who is certifying the birth. And this can be a little bit confusing if this is your first time filling out a birth certificate on your own. And that's because usually when you give birth at the hospital, this is something that the doctor and the nurse will do, and they will be the ones who are acting as the informant and the certifier of the birth. However, because you are the one that's filling this out, and because you've had an unassisted birth, you are now assuming that responsibility. So when you get to this section of your birth certificate, you, the person who is giving birth, can write your name down as the informant of this live birth. It will then ask you if there is another person or who was the other person that was the attendant at your birth. So you can put down your doula, you can put down your partner, you can put down whoever was there and present with you at the time that your baby was born. There's going to be another section that asks about the certifier. The person who you listed as the attendant can also be listed as the certifier. Or you yourself can be listed as the certifier, the person who is saying, yes, I am certifying that these statements are correct, that this child was born on this date at this time, etc., etc. Now, again, you are going to have to sign this part of your document. Do not sign this part while you are filling out the birth certificate. You are going to want to wait until you get to the registrar office so that they can see that you are signing it and so that this document can be notarized. Any place on any one of these forms that asks for a signature, it is best practice just to wait to actually sign your name until you get to the office and you are doing it in front of someone, just to be sure. Now, the last question that people usually ask is what to do about the social security number or the social security card. In that same section that I just mentioned about the attendant and the certifier and the informant of the birth, there's also going to be a box that asks if you approve the release of this information to the Social Security office so that your child can be issued a Social Security card and a Social Security number. You are either going to check yes or no in that box. If you check yes, then the Social Security office will automatically receive this information from the Vital Statistics office, and they will send you your Social Security card within 2 to 3 weeks after the birth certificate has been filed. The birth certificate will also be filed and sent out to you within 2 to 3 weeks. And of course, all you have to do is pay the fees, which is usually about $25 for the birth certificate and about $5 if you want any extra copies. You can go ahead and pay for those extra copies at the time that you file the birth certificate, just so you have these extra copies on hand for the future if they are needed, and they will send all of those to you at once, again within 2 to 3 weeks. Sometimes it may take a little bit longer, especially now with everything that is going on. It can take a little bit longer for it to arrive to you. The last thing that I want to mention is that you're going to want to do this before the first year. Some states may be a little bit different as far as the time frame on when they want you to file the birth certificate. The only reason why you want to do it within this time frame is because once you have passed that time frame, then usually you will have to go to court or do some extra steps to get a birth certificate for your child, which obviously can be a little bit more lengthy. They may ask for more documentation. So just to be safe, just to save yourself the headache, you're gonna wanna make sure you know that cutoff date or that cutoff time so that you can go ahead and file this information before then. The last thing that I want to add is that there is one more document that you may need. This does not apply to everyone. This only applies to parents of a child who are not married. So if you are filing the birth certificate and you are filling out the information for both you and the child's other parent, then you are going to have to get another form, which is called the Paternity Acknowledgement Form. So again, this is only for people who are not married and you are filling out the birth certificate to include both parents' information. This has nothing to do with custody or anything like that. This document is solely for the other parent to say, yes, I acknowledge that I am the other parent, that my information is being included on this birth certificate, and I am verifying this information. So you'll also want to include that along with your birth packet when you go and turn this in at your local office. And that's it. It is all very simple, very straightforward. When you go to file this, a lot of people think that it's really complicated, and it really is not, as long as you have the proper documentation when you go in. And they will also let you know once you get there if you need anything else or if you filled out anything incorrectly, and they'll let you know what you need to do to fix it. So I hope this video was helpful. If you have any other questions, make sure to leave them down in the comments below. If there are any specific topics or questions you want me to answer in my next video, then make sure to leave those in the comments below as well, and we will be back next week with another video. Make sure you like and subscribe and hit the bell icon so that you can be notified when those new videos drop. Until then, much love.